Greetings and welcome to episode number 7 of You Had Me at Halo, where we talk about everything past, present, and future of one of gaming's most storied franchises. Today, we have a mixture of topics to cover. We got to talk about the Master Chief in Fortnite. We got the Master Chief and dogs in the holiday ad. Got some interesting comments from the mocap actor in Halo Infinite. Also, we have new hires and position changes at 343, and we can talk about what that all means. But before we jump into the topics, let's start with introducing our team today. First off, we should mention we're down a member today. Austin, aka Proven, is not able to make it, just a part of the holiday schedule casualties. However, we have the rest of the team. I'll go ahead and start with Spartan Mike, aka Kage Maru. How's it going, Mike?
Hey everyone, how you guys doing?
Next up, we got Spartan Ursel, aka Soul Blazer.
How's it going? Hey guys, how's it going? I am dying for any Halo news, please.
And then we have a Spartan Jesse, aka Don Cabeza. How you doing, Jesse?
Life is a never-ending road of darkness and despair. How are you?
I see you've been talking to the Xbox community lately. Okay, great.
The initiative game is what?
Oh, stop watching those comparisons of blades of grass on Digital Foundry. All right, so we're going to start off by just making a small announcement with the community. Obviously, we have already talked about the fact that there's going to be a news drop towards the end of the month, and we don't know if we have our next show at a normally scheduled cadence. If we're going to end up missing that, we don't want to have a show right before that when there's no news, and then wait a couple weeks to have another show. So what we're going to do for our next show, especially during the holidays, while it's going to be slow up until that news drop, is we're going to have a podcast shortly after that, whenever that news drop is. And again, we don't know that exact date, but expect our next podcast to probably hit towards the end of December. So speaking of December and the holidays, we recently just saw the Master Chief and dogs together in the Halo holiday ad. Did everybody on the panel get a chance to check that out?
Yep, it was a pretty cool ad.
It was very biased towards dogs, I gotta say.
Yeah, I'm a cat person, so
I don't have any electronics in my house, so I'm off.
What?
All right, dogs versus cats. We'll start with you, Jesse. I'm just kidding.
Opening statement.
Yeah, like that. It was a nice ad, but I want to get your guys' thought. I mean, anybody have any particular thoughts on the ad? I know I was freeze framing it, hoping to kind of glean some more information, and I was sending you guys screenshots. But I guess you guys shot my dreams down there. No Halo Infinite news from that. But did you take away anything from the commercial?
I think that obviously they're still trying to keep Halo relevant or in people's minds because it's so prevalent in that trailer. So that's really the only thing that I got from it, is that that they made sure to include that among their other big IPs like Flight Sim as a tentpole game. But I mean, unfortunately, there was nothing really Halo Infinite there.
Yeah.
One thing that I did confirm for me, not confirm, just reaffirm my thoughts, which is that the Halo Infinite Master Chief design is amazing and is definitely the best, in my opinion, at least so far, the best Master Chief design we've had. At least in recent memory.
I agree with that. I think that artistically, the Master Chief design almost doesn't match everything else we saw at July. Like, you look at the Master Chief, and it does. It looks like it's almost a perfect of the old and the new. It takes a lot of the old art style. It looks super clean. He looks good.
He looks finished, right? I guess you could say.
And then you look at Craig's face. Any thoughts from you, Jesse?
Mashed potatoes are delicious.
All right. Wow.
Just going through it, and we've seen it so much. So much of the advertising, was going to be Halo. They had so much already built up for it. Who knows when this commercial came about? But they so much of their planning, the back of the box, so it all was Halo. They were really banking on it, and we're going to keep seeing that. We have seen it throughout the holidays.
Yeah, it was interesting because one of the things I was thinking about when I was watching the commercials, it actually got me thinking back to previous Halo launches, because it's funny right now with all the advertising. You got Master Chief on the back of that box, and I keep leaving my Series Xbox. I haven't put it away yet. So I see that. You see some of these commercials that have come out. And it's really just got me thinking about, like, hey, this feels like the buildup, like the kind of air, like that feeling in the air when a Halo is about to launch, is kind of there, and you can tell everything was, set up to get ready for this launch, which is obviously they didn't back out the advertising or the commercial. So I mean, but that does get. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say marketing is too big of a beast to completely backpedal.
It's too big of a beast, and the big thing is that it affects other parties. I mean, we're seeing, what is it, like Hot Pockets or whatever the hell. We saw things that were revealed, like the skins through advertisement with other products, and that's just because those other companies already paid, or is it Microsoft that pays? Whatever the deal is made.
Should they hire whatever company?
Good advertising for both, essentially, because you get two families come together.
But the deal's already made. So, and I think Phil or someone mentioned even prior to launch that all of that was in consideration for the delay. And obviously, they either have to renegotiate those deals with those products, or they just let them go, and they seem to just let them go.
It felt to me like they let go what they had to, and they held back what they could.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment, because they're going to have to renegotiate some things for the actual launch.
I bet you some spoilerish mega blocks got held back.
Yeah,
and they released more basic overall stuff. Not saying that happened, just things like that. Like, okay, we got to get most of this out. We're not going to pay to just store it all in a warehouse. Then it's going to be impossible to recoup our money from making it. So anything that we can't just keep somewhere and not have to pay a bunch of money to store it, it has to go out. Like all the Monster Energy cans, it's a perishable product. They need to go out. But, anything you can hold back, you do. Like the artwork books have probably been done for a long time. They're paying to store those somewhere. It sucks, but they're really spoilery, so they have to.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, and we're going to talk about this coming up, but it does kind of segue here a little bit. All these products, all this marketing, all these commercials, all that stuff, Microsoft clearly expected Halo at launch. You know what I mean? Phil did, Xbox did, etc. It makes me think that the delay is still primarily COVID caused. You know what I mean? It's not all this crazy internal drama happening. It's not all these people leaving and shuffling, etc. To me, it feels like it was a COVID primary caused delay, which I'm still, at least for now, I'm still on the team that means we're gonna see the game sooner than later. You know what I mean?
Maybe. We'll probably dive into that here.
I could just be grasping at straws, but
the already Halo book does have a release date again. It's June 29th.
January, right? Or no, was it June?
June 29th on Amazon is when it says.
I heard it actually moved again. At least someone posted something like that, but I didn't verify it.
For some people, it was showing February, March, but for me, when it updated, because I have it pre-ordered, it told me June 29th.
Okay.
Yeah, I would add to that, though, that sometimes they make those dates with maybe the best case scenario in mind and realize that they may still delay it again, just like they could with the game. But we'll get into that here shortly. It is funny, though, when you kind of like talk about all the advertising, Monster Energy drink, Hot Pockets. Like, it's like, how the hell are people that are susceptible to Halo advertising still alive?
Anyways, and then you just get a code for something. Like I bought a Monster and then realized, oh, that's Master Chief on the side. Hell, I bought 2 Rockstars this week and they had Cyberpunk, and those ones are great because you redeem it and you get $1 gift code.
I mean, so, if I was driving and I needed an energy drink and one can had Master Chief on it and the other can didn't, I mean, I'm gonna pick the Master Chief can. It's not rocket science for me.
I redeem them. They're there. It'll be there waiting for the extra XP. But the Rockstar ones with Cyberpunk are cool because they just give you $1 of Xbox Live credit.
I don't even need a code. I don't need $1. The Master Chief's good enough for me.
One unopened just as like a.
Oh, that makes sense. That's a smart idea. Yeah.
I'll do the Jeff Gerstmann thing. Like he drank a bottle of Mountain Dew Reach that was 10 years old.
Oh my god.
Like earlier this year.
Oh my god.
Just to taste test it. He's like, yeah, this is terrible.
So he didn't drink the whole thing?
He just took a sip and he's like,
okay.
I can.
Yeah, because I don't know if you guys
when this was new, it probably tasted good, but this.
I don't know if you guys are familiar. What is he, like Miami Beast or something? There's a dude that has a YouTube channel that drinks just nasty stuff, eats nasty stuff.
Sounds like YouTube.
Yeah, like he drank a Pepsi Crystal Clear that was like 20 years old and ended up like throwing up all over the place.
So it does go bad? My head, I'm thinking it's just water and sugar, you know?
Well, I think he drank some other stuff too. Like he had like a lineup of drinks that were like,
yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
10 plus years old.
You should drink wine; it'll taste better.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Well, hopefully, hopefully we don't need to drink anything that's strong the next time they show it. But just make sure if you are susceptible to Halo advertising that you have your health insurance in order. All right. So like, moving on. Like I said, it got me thinking about the Halo launches. I know we've talked about favorite Halo games before, and one thing I don't think we really talked about is the Halo launches, which I think are a little bit different, right? Because a lot of the magic around a Halo launch is really that build up and kind of the memories you get from the first weeks you're playing it, or you remember what you were doing with your friends, like over the holiday, the time off and things like that. So I just real quickly for fun, I know we didn't have this down as one of our main topics, but roundtable, what are your favorite memories or favorite launch around a Halo? I guess we'll start with you, Mike.
Okay. It's got to be Halo 3. Definitely it's got to be Halo 3. Just because the marketing for that was absolutely perfect. I mean, Halo 2 is a close second, but I mean, the marketing for Halo 3 was perfect. It was absolutely everywhere. Even people that didn't follow video games knew about Halo 3 launching. Yeah. And, I took time off of work and hung out at a friend's house who had a LAN party. And, we played LAN co-op all the way through on Legendary, right from the get-go. And it was just absolutely amazing because, like, you had your controversy surrounding the resolution and everything like that. But just everything from the lead up to launch to how the demo was, or the beta. I mean, everything was handled very, very well, and much. It was like you just were able to tell that it was a game that didn't feel, I guess, rushed like Halo 2. Yeah, or have a troubled of a development behind it. Actually, I think Halo 3 had a pretty smooth development from what I remember. But yeah, like the whole finish the fight marketing completely got to me.
Yeah.
I was eager to see how it ended, and overall I was happy.
You bring up some good points. I mean, you think about it, it's almost like it was peak Xbox. If you've been an Xbox gamer since 2001, that was like the moment where all your PlayStation people you were fighting in forums with back in those days. I don't do that anymore. But like that was when they all were like, all right, they kind of joined in, and it's like I got to get in on this thing. It was like a gaming event, probably. Yep. That was the one time where I think I think that was peak Xbox. That was the top of the mountain over its almost 20-year history. How about you, Soul, man? Did you have any thoughts? Like, what's your favorite launch?
I have a pretty boring answer because I'm still kind of young. I mean, Proven's not here, so I'm the youngest now. I don't remember the Halo 1 launch. Halo 2 launch for me was more like, I don't even know how many. All I know is I need to play this game at one point, and I played it. Halo 3 is definitely, if I had to pick one, it's Halo 3, of course. It wasn't just the launch. I remember on the Halo website, Bungie's website, I think it might have been the day of E3, I don't know, who knows. But they had the trailer out, and I remember sitting there clicking play, watching about a second and a half, and it freezes. And so I go back to the beginning, I click play. I watch 2.5 seconds, and it freezes. And I did this for the entire thing until the whole thing loaded, and I watched that trailer. The first reveal trailer with This Is the Way the World Ends.
Yep, I remember that.
Oh man, I watched that trailer so many times. Though sadly, I was not able to play it at launch. I could not convince my dad to buy an Xbox at launch. Instead, I had to avoid spoilers from this one friend who knew I loved the series. So the entire school year, he was just constantly talking about, hey, how about this and that. Eventually, I went to a friend's place every day who I knew had it, and we co-op played the entire game, and that was amazing. But it wasn't launch, so I'm not really in this experience.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, being a bit younger, you probably have a little bit less memories of that. Now, that was the time? When did YouTube start up? Because I do remember, like, isn't that kind of like when gaming and YouTube kind of?
I think the first YouTube video was 2006, right? Someone goes to the zoo or something like that. It might be 07. I'll just double check that.
Okay. Yeah, I do think, like, I don't know if anybody else did this, but at the lead up in July, I kind of went back through some old nostalgia videos of people standing in line for Halo and stuff like that. Hey, Jesse, how about you, man? Like, what was your favorite launch?
It's not even really tied to the game for me. It's just tied to the launch and everything around it. But after being with my wife and moving down here, I mostly played Halo 4. She watched me play it, and she enjoyed going through all that, but she didn't play it herself. But then when Halo 5 rolled around and she saw that special edition Xbox One, the old VCR for Halo 5, she was like, ooh, I want that. So she finally we already had an Xbox, so then we had two, and we were finally able to play things together. And so that was like the game that started her, my brother, and myself all playing through things together. So that was the beginning of our now 5 years straight of playing ridiculous amounts of things together. So it's always my happiest memory tied to a Halo launch.
That's really sweet, Jesse. I didn't know you had a sweet idea.
Yeah, I know.
That's the original Elite controller, and that's what I got when Halo 5 came out. And so that also makes it even a better memory.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because a lot of times you think about the game, but I think the interesting with Halo is it's really, and I think the reason why it has such a passionate audience, and why a lot of the hardcore don't want the change is like it's because it's more than just a game. It's really about the community around it. Like a lot of the favorite memories are based off of who you're playing, like just remembering your friends around it, or in your case there, Jesse, you're talking about with you and your wife, and I think it really is the community it builds around it. I know for myself, like half of my friends list, probably more, came from Halo, one way or another, and so that's always interesting, like how that kind of forms the memories. But no, that's really cool. Yeah, for me, I mean, I guess kind of going on that point, the lead up for me was Halo 2, and Halo 2 isn't even my favorite game in the series, not by a long shot. In fact, for the campaign, it was probably at the time it was a bit of disappointing because, I remember that was the most I ever anticipated probably any game. Maybe Zelda or Ocarina of Time was up there as well, but it was definitely up there in the top two in terms of like lead up to a game, and then I remember by the day after it launched. Remembering that the vertical slice did not exist in that game from the Halo E3, Halo 2 E3. But the thing that was really cool about it, really, I don't know if you guys remember all this stuff, like in the forums back in the day. I was on like GameSpot a lot, or GameSpot, and some of the IGN as well. You remember the I Love Bees kind of leading up to it, and then. Sitting in the or watching the E3 demos. To me, those are still like the most memorable E3 moments ever. And so like the build up to that was just, as somebody who was just all in on just the Xbox back then, it was just, there's never really been a build up. I think that's ever equaled that. And I get like Halo 3 was the peak of the mountain for Halo in terms of community, in terms of Xbox in general, but I feel like the I don't know, the build up for 2 was, I think it was I don't remember ever experiencing anything like that, just in terms of like how on pins and needles everybody was for every little thing that came out. And there wasn't as many people, but I think the people that were involved were, that was just kind of a special event. So, and I think that was the last time or the only time I've ever bought a collector's edition of any game. And probably one of the most memorable times I ever stood in line getting a midnight release. And I don't know that I did a lot of those after the fact, but yeah, that was, making friends in line while you're waiting for Halo. Adding them to your friends list and playing with them later on, and then jumping in these parties and stuff. So that was pretty crazy. And then with the matchmaking and all that stuff, that was just like
a pretty unique experience, right? Something new at the time.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's like you're with a bunch of people and you're kind of going through this, and again, you like just think of the matchmaking. Like I don't even remember that being all in on the hype leading up to that. I don't even remember that being a big part of it, or at least it didn't stick in my mind. And I just remember like me and some of my friends getting in a party, and then we all moved to the next game together. It was like, instead of like server hopping, you match up against a new team, and it was like, whoa, what just happened? And getting on the Zanzibar and you're running around with your teammates, and it's like, wow, this looks exactly like the thing they showed at E3. And it was just you get on that windmill and everything. So for me it was always Halo 2. And again, Halo 2 didn't end up being my favorite out of the classics. I still liked it, but it wasn't my favorite. But I'd say the lead up and just the memories and like I still have people on my friends list today that I'm still friends with. Like I feel like I'm friends with them now. I got to know them because of Halo 2. So that's always, I think, going to have that special place. Any other final thoughts on that?
Look about special editions, and I think I've only really bought 2. One was Ori and the collector's edition of Halo 5, but that was 2 years after it came out for, I think it was $60 on sale.
Oh, you got a good deal? Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, $60 on sale on Amazon, and I turned around and somebody actually bought the deluxe edition of Halo 5 that came with it for $40. So I ended up getting the statue and everything for $20.
Oh, damn.
So I was very, very proud. That was, man, I'm the best.
YouTube's first video was 2005, by the way. Sorry, I double checked that.
2010 when they finally got rid of like the time limit.
Yeah, man. Old YouTube was weird.
It was, you couldn't be more than 10 minutes, so that's why there was 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and they're all like 9 minutes and 59 seconds long.
Yep.
So, anybody else buy any special edition things besides the? You guys said you got the statue.
Halo 5 was a humongous box that had the Chief facing Locke statue, Halo 5 Deluxe Edition, a little metal Guardian you could build, which I was too bad at doing it to try. It was in a shit ton of Warzone wrecks, and I sold all those, kept the statue.
Mm,
That sounds
I just
awesome.
I just got the Halo 2 and 3 special editions. I didn't get the cat helmet. I got the one below that with Halo 3. I'm actually happy I didn't get the one with the helmet because I know a lot of people were expecting to be able to wear that, and I don't know. That was just an obscene price for me back in the day.
Well,
yeah,
plus,
exactly. Yeah.
you need like 100 sizes of them if you're gonna make it work for everyone. People's heads are so different.
Oh, I know. No. Well, I
all.
mean, that didn't stop. I mean, it did it with the Doom helmet.
I
For-
couldn't even. I doubt I could get that thing even around the very top of my gigantic head.
yeah, same here. I mean, how many headsets I've broken on my fat head? I'm not gonna chance it with any helmet.
I don't even remember what was in the Halo 2 Collector's Edition other than the cool looking case, which I think I still have.
There was a steel case and a making of type DVD.
Oh, that's what it was.
It
Okay.
had a bunch of bonus content.
I know I still
Okay.
have the Halo 3 poster that comes in the steel book with it. It was like the Chief and the Arbiter back to back. I guess that I should find that again.
Yeah, I don't think I got that one. All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll move on because we got a few other topics we want to cover today. So there's been a couple pieces of news that have come out. I don't know if you want to call them news, but maybe hints, clues. Recently, I don't know who here has had a chance to watch it, but the mocap actor for Halo again alluded towards a spring release, and I guess this ties into some of the stuff you guys were talking about earlier with the art book and things like that. More hints or more clues that maybe Halo will be ready in the spring. So I don't know about that. I think but I want to throw it out to you guys and kind of see what you guys thought about that. And tying that into, I guess, maybe this all kind of goes together, but, recently 343 has had more high level position changes. And, does that mean anything for that release date? Is that something that you guys think is more or less indicative of Halo coming out middle of the year versus maybe it getting pushed back? I guess we'll go ahead and start with you, Jesse. What do you think about that, man?
I mean, I think it's probably they have an idea in their heads but no true commitments to it until they're feeling really confident. So I think we will have more an idea if it's sooner than later after whatever this update is. If it's a really small, things are still going to take their time. It's definitely not going to be a February or March release. If there's a little meat to it, it might be, I definitely still think that an initial goal or hope would be first half of the year, but I would never say, oh, it's definitely coming out first half of the year, because you don't know, you're not in the room. You don't know exactly how everything's going, what is transitioning, who's leaving for what reason, who's being hired for what reason. So I think overall signs point to first half of the year. Does that mean it's absolutely first half of the year? No, but it's trending that direction.
That's interesting. Now, what do you think about the fact that they just hired a new lead from Naughty Dog for the lighting, which seems like a pretty big piece, and then they had some more people from the leadership change, and I guess we had some preposition on that. I think they talked about there was hints that there was going to I don't know I can't remember if it was Schreier or somebody else said that there was hints that more were going to be coming. That wasn't just Staten. They're going to be changing over other positions, and it looks like that is continuing to happen. So do you think that any of that is related to what we're going to see with the first part of the campaign, or do you think that's more related to some of the next phases of the Halo Infinite 10-year platform?
Never really know when people get hired. Could have happened a while ago, could be right now. What are they, is it about launch, or is it about this is the Halo platform for 10 years, so obviously there's constantly going to be people coming and going, and we're going to be we're building an engine that takes a long time. It's a never-ending process. What we get at launch, no matter how much they delay it, it's still not going to be close to what that engine is a year or 2 or 3 after, especially because they're building on an entire new dev kit that is a very different thing from everything we've heard from the old tools. Like Sony's releases at launch look really nice, and a big reason for it is their tools are more similar and were ready longer than what Xbox has had, which those rumors. So they're going to keep hiring people. They have more there's more of a commitment now than there was when development started. And even though Halo is like the big game that has the big budget, I still think that reverberates throughout the entire company, in that you can take more time to get more done, even if the game launches, it's not done. This is a platform. Like Forza Motorsport doesn't have a number on the end. That's going to probably be a platform.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep hiring people, looking at it in the old method of, okay, we hire these people, they're making this game, it's out the door, they move on to something else, some stay. It's the older thinking.
Yeah.
The older, like, there's so much older generational thinking around it, and even PlayStation's like, oh no, we've got years where we're going to keep supporting PlayStation 4, and there's just it's a different focus that is probably going to take time for fans like us to get used to.
Yeah, I think you bring up some good points, because a lot of times we always try to think of things like in a one-to-one, like, hey, this is the way it's always been, so that means this. But I do think you bring up some good points. It's really, it's a new situation. It's a lot more, I think, a lot more moving parts, and it's a lot more sophisticated. So it's hard to just say that this means that just because it's that, just because 1 and 1 always equal 2 in the past.
And people come and go so much, and we don't hear about it, or we don't know about it till months later. So
right.
it's always hard. You don't have the context behind stuff. And I think speaking with some devs at times, they're like, yeah, you guys, this is pretty normal, or this is a sign of something, versus if you don't know, you can only go so far with being any type of accurate with your speculation.
Yeah. It's funny you brought something up, and I was thinking about it, but it's interesting that how much noise gets made every time somebody leaves at 343. But then they just pulled the senior person from Naughty Dog from the lighting. And it's like, how many times has Microsoft done that now, and nobody says anything about it, because obviously it's Sony and they've proven themselves. But it is funny that on one end it's like the ship's sinking, on the other end it's just like, oh, no big deal. So
look at the initiative roster, how many people they've hired from big ass studios, and it's not like, oh, my God, they lost another person at Insomniac, or it's normal. People move around.
People leave. Yep. Who's gonna say?
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm. I just real quick. I hope that because there was some, I don't know, whispers or comments about how the turnaround rate at 343 kind of made it harder for them to hire talented people or attract talented people. So I'm hoping the fact that they did get like the lead lighting artist from Naughty Dog, I hope that's a sign that even if that was the case at some point, that's improving. Either that, or they just like sent truckloads of money to his place.
Back it up.
But I do like the fact that they did bring in the lead lighting guy from there, especially when you consider that was one of the less impressive parts of the July thing. But there's probably a lot of reasons behind that.
Okay, so someone who's not entirely familiar with how corporate structure works, the position he was hired in is senior lighting artist. To me, that kind of sounds like a senior engineer, something like that, where there's quite a few of them working at the same location. Is this not the same case?
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
there's not one guy that does the lighting for the entire.
No, what I mean
game.
is there only one senior lighting artist in a game development studio, or is there multiple? Because at least when it comes to like senior engineers, there's a lot. Senior networking manager, numerous of them. You know what I mean?
There's going to be more than one.
There's usually a lead. So yeah, I guess that is a good point.
And his position isn't called lead lighting artist, right?
That's true.
It's just senior lighting artist to me. So it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal in the sense where it's like, oh my god, they're hiring a lighting lead right now. It's so far away. No, they're just hiring someone who's good at lighting, clearly, who's talented.
You might be right there. It might be overthought. Just like I said, just like everything with 343 right now is probably overanalyzed. And
I mean, like we knew ray tracing was going to come post-launch, right? Microsoft had made that commitment already. They're like, listen, the ray tracing update's going to be releasing after launch. So in a sense, this may even be just part of the schedule. Delayed, of course, at least a little bit, but...
I mean, that was for the original launch. I expect ray tracing to be there at launch.
No, that's what I mean. What I mean is originally they wanted ray tracing after the launch, right? So originally, if this guy joined, even when he did right now, which by the way, usually from what I've heard, when we get this confirmation that someone joined, they've been there for a little while. It means that like it's not that big of a deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, who was the other one that I don't have the name in front of me? Didn't they lost? Was it or they changed over a lead level designer or something like that, right?
Yeah, I was actually trying to find it on Twitter. I saw it a few days ago on Twitter. One of the I don't think it was a lead. I think their position was just a campaign designer.
Yes.
He worked on the campaign, but he wasn't a lead of the area.
Okay.
But he did leave. But I mean that can mean many different things. Like, does that mean that just his work is done, or
this is it. Kobe Payne, campaign level and gameplay designer, will be leaving 343 at the end of the month. Looks like just a single developer.
Yeah.
Like,
but
the norm.
It because a level designer is different than, from what I understand, it's different than like an encounter or designer. So the level, or at least the ones that he was working on, could be done.
Not to mention his new position is at Gunfire Games as junior level designer. So I don't think this was any kind of lead or senior position.
Okay, so basically, I overestimated.
Basically, it's the usual thing. Sick mentioned it too, where it's a job. People leave, come and go.
Right.
And it's only us who analyze every LinkedIn page possible, where it's like, oh my god, they have a new hire. You've got to be kidding. Era, I got to top this right now.
Breaking
coming and going, because that's the only way you really get a.
Yes, that is
that's
true.
the only way you get more pay for the most part.
Yeah, 100%. You have to move. Yeah.
All right. Well, so we won't make a whole lot of that. For me personally, like I feel like there's just a mixed bag of hints, though. I'm not as confident that it's like this spring thing.
Launch.
I mean, I think it was like their intention, but and maybe this is just wishful thinking. But again, we probably beaten this dead horse. But like the last show, I think I mentioned too that with some of the tool issues or some of the questions around that, I'm like, give them.
On our first episode, I think first or second, we asked each other, when do we think Halo's launching? And I think all 5 of us stuck with that May date ish. So would you change your answer now if you were asked that same question?
Yeah, I would.
Traitor.
My prediction now, and this might just be more of a hope. And again, a lot of this comes out of some of the things we've heard from developers about the tool sets and things like that. And what I'm not comfortable with, and this is a me thing. This is not this is not me projecting on anybody else. But I don't like Halo being the first AAA thing out the door. Or trying to like be way ahead of everybody else in terms of being the first AAA with this immature dev environment, with developers not necessarily being at that point where they're comfortable optimizing. And maybe 343 is different. Maybe they're ahead of the curve on learning stuff, and maybe Microsoft's been able to kind of work with them.
Just look at Gears 5 and the Coalition. That's running better than any.
Yeah.
That's how that game looks.
And that's a good point, and that could be like the counter argument to what I'm just saying now. But again, so like I'm just taking what we have available at face value, and you make a good point with Gears. But even Gears is not necessarily leveraging like the mesh shaders and like some of the any sort of machine learning features, and maybe Halo won't anyways. It's just because its game design is Xbox
One of the
One.
things I've heard from people that have some idea is one of the big performance boosts that they're hoping to see in their development kits are planned for spring. So you get that in there, you get that for spring, you have a game that's coming out later part of spring, early summer, it should see the benefits from that.
Yeah,
so like Phil talked about, I don't want to really have Halo out before people can have the system anyways, and then he drops that he thinks it'll be better for getting systems by April. So those things work in tandem. Okay, I don't really want to have Halo out until people can actually have the new system they want to play it on, because it'll run best there. And also, by the way, we think our stock situation should be fixed by April. Those things are why I would still feel confident about the first half of the year.
Well, the other thing he mentioned, and this is what threw me off, because in that same, I think it's the exact same interview, they asked him about splitting up the campaign and multiplayer, and he was non-committal on that, which to me says, hey, there's at least, like, I feel like if they were very confident on spring at the very least, and maybe this is where they're just giving themselves room to have options. If they were very confident in that, you wouldn't even make that an option. And it feels like,
honestly, I think not. It's not committal on absolutely everything until they feel comfortable. They know when they're doing something. So like you ask, oh, what do you think about chopping it up? And if he says no now, and then in 3 months they're like, oh, the multiplayer is just done, man. We can get that out, and we can even call it flighting or anything like that, and get it a couple months ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's about leaving. I think it's very much corporate speak. I'm not going to put my foot in my mouth or say something that we end up not doing.
Yeah, I think them having their hands forced to launch or delay the launch kind of made them gun shy on committing to anything.
Well, you got to think about that though. Like, so Spencer is very, very careful in how he words things. He's especially since he's got his new position, late 2017. It seems like
announcing control on Game Pass a full year early.
Yeah, except for that. With the customer control,
hey, we got it. We did get it.
We got it a year later. I'm sure that's what he was meaning at the time. But I feel like he's very careful in how he words things. He knows that people are going to take what he says and dissect it.
I mean, when people literally take like every second letter, not even word, every second letter he says, and try to find hints, I would be too.
Yeah, so I mean, no, I get it, but at the same time, then you know that if you say that, if you're not going to be committal, like I feel like another answer he could have just said is, hey, as of right now, our plan is to try to get everything out together. Obviously, I don't know. I feel like there's a different way you could maybe approach that.
You're saying the fact that he wasn't committal means they were considering it, or possibly considering it, or might still be considering it.
They said they were before too, and then they chose not to do it. Like it came up, well, what do you think? Do you think this would be a thing we should do to get it out in November? And they're like, no, we no for that. But it wasn't a never.
But see, the thing is, now I completely agree. And Phil's pretty straightforward when he answers questions. And I completely agree that he could have said, as of right now, our plan is, to release everything together. But then people would even be dissecting that. Like, okay, so that plan can change later, which is really no different than what the non-committal response gave.
Yeah.
Non-committal response is literally getting people to think that it's a commitment. If there's nothing they can do or say, people won't read the way they want to read it.
Yeah, that's the kind of the point that I'm making. It really doesn't matter if he gave a non-committal response or if he said as of right now, which is non-committal in itself. People are going to form their own opinions or results from it.
I mean, one thing I think they did smart was that they didn't give a date other than the year. That's one thing certain games do, and it's a terrible idea. I mean, Cyberpunk had numerous delays because they kept giving dates. Ori, I think, would have benefited a lot by not giving an exact date. If that game had even just a month more, or E2, I mean, well, the Wiz, if that game had even a month more of development time, it would have released much better.
The
No,
version
yeah,
that's out now, Series X, is probably one of the best
Oh,
games ever made.
100%. I mean, I gave the game like a 9.5 personally, and that was with some pretty bad bugs, you know?
It's
Yeah,
still
I'm
not near
happy I waited for the Series X launch because I'm loving the game right now.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It got robbed at Game of the Year awards.
Yeah, it did. That's probably another topic, but yeah, it's definitely it's my game. It's my
100%.
game. But yeah, I hear what you guys are saying, and you're making a lot of sense, and I think like the way you say that, like from a high level, again, you kind of take that away and be like, and it's don't want to make too much, don't want to make those commitments. So I get that, but at the same time, I guess where I play devil's advocate on that, is that Phil has to know that when he leaves that door open as much as he is, that people are going to go ham on that.
Yeah.
So he obviously has to say that factor, the fact that people are going to lose their minds on them potentially splitting it, knowing what that backlash is going to be like in the short term for the brand, while there's really not a lot of other things to kind of dilute those messages because everything else is kind of backed up. So obviously he weighed that against the fact that against his knowledge of where the game is at. And so I think it's just that thing. So there's at least a chance, right? Because if there wasn't at least somewhat of a chance, he wouldn't have thrown it out there, which kind of, I go back to the fact that, more time with the tools is going to be a good thing. And then, on top of that, now that they have the Bethesda, if they feel like they're confident in some of those games, maybe launching at the end of the year, I do wonder. And again, this is just me. It's like there's no real evidence out there, but this is just me kind of hypothesizing and I guess fan fiction a little bit. But you think about the importance of Halo, and this might be their one shot to make a really, really good first impression, right? And especially for a 10-year platform, that maybe they do go, hey, yeah, this game is good, and we could get it out, in the spring, but we, they get some feedback from Staten and some of the other new leads they brought in, and be like, but we could make this even bigger. We can make this better. We can do some things that maybe we weren't thinking we were going to do because we we're trying to hit that launch and make a cross-platform game. And now that we have some things that give us some breathing room, now that it's not going to make the launch, maybe we think about how to, make it even more grandiose and push that campaign back until we feel like it's going to make the impression that we want Halo to make. So I just kind of leave that out there as something, and that even might be a wishful thinking of, hey, like there's enough now in the pipeline, and we'll probably find out some things. Let's use this as that game where let's use some of our other options and try to maybe rush one of those games instead.
Yeah. I mean, you're right in the sense that, in my opinion, my very uninformed, lack of knowledge opinion, is that if rather what I should say is there's definitely a very real chance that Microsoft, Xbox 343 are going, hey, people are expecting this game in fall anyway. A lot of people are saying, hey, it's a full year release. If we can make the game even better, if we can make it more content complete, I did quotations with my hands, then that's 100% a possibility. And that's, in my opinion, if the game doesn't release at spring, that's what I think happened. Personally, I don't think it's because the game was in such a terrible shape that they needed the extra time. To me, it's more that they took the extra time because they could.
A large piece of the puzzle missing is we don't know so much about the schedules of other games next year. Because even if it misses the spring, I don't think it's out of the question to think that it can launch in the summer sometimes. I mean, there are plenty of games from plenty of publishers that have proven that this mad rush to put everything at the fall just isn't necessary.
Concept. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if they, because schedules for games are decided years in advance, or at least a year plus. Like they're planned out or mapped out pretty far in advance, and it's a decent chance that, especially when they thought that Halo was launching this year, that they already had their big fall game lined up for next year. Yeah. So, but who knows? If they are, it's clear that they're flexible. It's clear that because of the not just Halo, but you look at the bulk of the games that they revealed or announced in their July showing, we didn't get release dates for any of them.
Yep.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's pretty clear, and it's a good sign that they're open and flexible regarding scheduling. So who knows? I mean, maybe whatever was going to be. What's up?
Yeah, I'm saying, let's say, for example, what if the surprise happens, people are right, and we see Forza Horizon next week, right?
Yeah. But, well,
I mean, to me, that kind of changes the story now. What if that's the spring game now, or that's the fall game, and
I don't know if it does, because they've typically launched racers
alongside other big titles. You're right.
Yeah, because they're not directly competing.
That makes sense.
But I mean, and there was, I don't want to call it backlash, but some people did see it of a disappointment to some degree, where Forza 7 was the big premier showpiece title for the 1X, just because, for better or worse, races are more of
it's a niche genre.
Yeah,
especially simulator races, sim races.
Yeah.
Very long history of racers being a niche genre, but huge in advertisement. For showing the system's power.
Oh yeah, I mean the game itself did a good job of what the system was capable of, but I think people were hoping for more, just from a gaming perspective. And so even if they announce Horizon 5 for next year, and it's likely going to be the fall, I don't know if that means that Halo won't be there. And it also could have been the case where, even if they had something originally planned for fall of next year, they push that further along. There's nothing with them. How do I want to word this? Geez, with us knowing so little about next year, it does give them a lot of flexibility of what they can do regarding their lineup.
Yeah,
it was a very conscious choice. You're saying the fact that they didn't give us any dates.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm assuming so, because I think it's if it wasn't a conscious choice, then it was a horrible mistake. Because, and I say that because, people want to know, outside of the launch window, people want to know, what am I going to get? What is the first year with my shiny new system going to give me?
Well, that actually is still a launch window, technically.
Wait, next year?
18 months, right? Is what people call launch window.
No, I thought the launch window was like the first 3 months.
No, I'm pretty sure. Like Titanfall, for example, released March 2014 or something, right?
That's because a bunch of Xbox fans were just.
No, I'm fairly certain Titanfall was considered within the launch window of Xbox One.
No, I always considered like the remainder of that year the launch window.
That's just
I think it's semantics.
It is 100% semantics.
I think the most important period, if you look back at console histories, usually it's that holiday after the launch is usually when.
Yeah. Through the end of this year is the launch window.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
But regarding showing off what the system can do and really getting like proper quote unquote next gen games out there, typically we don't see that until the following year.
Right. It's usually 12 months in. It's the next holiday. You might have a Rise or some tech demo that sucks, at launch or Killzone. But in terms of like, it's rare that you have a game that comes together in terms of both technical and
design.
And design. I mean, we had a remake on the PS5 and Demon's Souls, but in terms of like a new IP or a sequel or something like that, usually, I mean, outside of Halo CE and Breath of the Wild, I don't remember too many that really kind of blew people away right at the beginning. But again, I think it just goes back. It's not, and you said it, so I don't like me saying all that doesn't mean that I think, oh, hey, it's complete crap. It's like on fire. It needs time to get put back together. I just think that there is an opportunity, maybe, if they feel like that there's some other things that might hit in 2021, to step back and go, we can put out the multiplayer, and that's very important.
This thing.
Yeah, and not just polish it. I think that's maybe small thinking. Like if you kind of really delve into some of the R&D that's going on in gaming with AI, physics and things like that. Who's sorry about the notifications, by the way. Who's to say that they don't think that they could potentially bring in some of this new tech? And again, when Halo CE launched, it was pretty much set the bar in terms of AI and physics for console gaming at that time. Who's to say that they don't say, hey, let's see if we can do some impressive things, or maybe some areas of the game do some things special on the Xbox Series X.
I mean, there's a pretty big block in the way of that, though. With the name Xbox One.
Yeah, that means that there's no cross-gen play, which they're not going to do.
Which maybe sorry, that damn phone. So let me just shut this damn thing off. But sorry, but it's my ex that keeps texting me. So I'm not going to read my text, Jesse. That's why I'm a little bit scatterbrained.
I mean, I can see us getting like more particle effects and the things that are ultimately not important, just very visual, and same thing with ray tracing. But yeah, we are going to be, in terms of design or physics or any of that stuff, we are going to be
limited,
beholden to what last gen can do.
I do think they might focus on just really making ray tracing perform well. You know what I mean? I think we might make it an option. Oh, it's 100% going to be an option in my opinion, unless they're able to hit 60 with ray tracing, like solid 60, which I don't know if that's even possible with the current hardware and the current design choices or whatnot.
They probably could, but it's going to be at a much lower resolution, which is where I hope the option is there. Because I want to. It all depends on what they use it for and how well it's implemented. I would like the choice of with and without ray tracing, and like without ray tracing with better image quality, for example. We'll see how it goes. Like, I'm sure it will look gorgeous. And there's different options. But here's the thing: like, all of these fancy technologies outside of things that are already planned, like ray tracing, I don't know if they want to add anything that's not planned this late in the game, because what's the difference between that and feature creep? Especially in a game that is going to be a platform with a 10-year plan. If there's things that they would like to add, then put those in the back burner and then just focus on making the game the best that it could be right now. And, I do agree with you that, if they're looking to polish it or to make it more grandiose, if they're trying to claw back the level of excitement or bring back, I guess, more positive way of saying it, the level of excitement and anticipation and polish that we saw with a game like Halo 3, they're going to have, I think it benefits them to just focus on what they already have planned
and take a couple months to do so, right? If they can, because they can. Why not? There's no release date, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm just talking about like adding any new fancy technology that's not already planned. Well, because that's only going to push the boat out further.
Well, let me ask about this though, because there's some things, and I hear what you're saying about the Xbox One, and from a design standpoint, that will hold things back. But that only has to hold things. There's some aspects that I think are scalable that in terms of that that most of the community don't think are scalable. And one of those examples would be physics. I don't know how many of you've seen the physics demos on the PC where, you know, you take old games, you apply new levels of physics that really do change the way the game like looks and feels. And you know, Microsoft don't want to have it. This is just one example. It could be also AI. But obviously, yeah, if you're going to play co-op, you know, you're not going to be able to have that. But who's to say you don't have two modes? You can have, you know, you want to play co-op with somebody on Xbox One, and you know, that's just something that you just have to turn off to play with them, I guess. You know, so I mean, that's just a thing. And I think you again, Mike, you bring up some really good points that kind of talk me down from my grandiose thinking, because probably just polishing it and nailing the foundation is the key. I think sometimes feature creep can be you know, and anything, and when it comes to technology, can be the downfall. You get so caught up on all the bells and whistles that you miss the the core thing that you're trying to do. And so at that point, yeah, maybe it is just like, hey, let's polish the hell out of it. So it's hard to say. You know, there was just something I kind of thought about, and again, you kind of sway me a little bit on that. But I do see that regardless of what they have going on there, if there is things out there that are reachable, and I know Microsoft is focusing a lot on scale, especially with them supporting PC long-term too. I think that's another thing people forget about. It's not just Xbox One. It's across how big of a net are you going to cast across PC? Scale, I think, is a huge part of their R&D for the next gen technologies, and so I would be curious to see, you know, if they do if Halo is a game that has some scalable elements in it across, you know, the Series X and Xbox One.
If they did do something along the lines of the physics or AI or whatnot, then you're right that they would have to either have a splash screen that says playing with this player will disable these features, or you know, basically you disable the features yourself to allow you to play, because with last gen players, because, you know, we've seen this with Crackdown, when you play with a PC player or 1X player, you have extended draw distances. But if you play with an OG Xbox One player, those draw distances and traffic and pedestrian
FPS2,
counts,
I think, right? Wasn't it limited to 30 when you co-op with an Xbox One?
It's limited. It's limited to 30 on the 1X as well.
Oh, okay.
But
no, I think
but
PC,
like
I thought.
Yeah, the PC you can do 60, but if let's say I'm on the PC running max settings and you're on the OG Xbox One, if I play co-op with you, even though I have my, you know, draw distance settings and all that stuff set to max, I'm downgraded to what you're playing, to what the OG X, and it's the same thing with the 1X. And it's also the pedestrian count and I think traffic count as well that's downgraded slightly. That stuff though is not necessarily as noticeable. Like, it's not as in your face as next gen physics, or maybe not AI, but just definitely next gen physics, because like the physics examples that OBM used, I mean, you think about, you know, like debris or sparks, or like a lot of those early demos had like physics and particles that just stuck around and you were able to play around with them and whatnot. I think if those just turned off automatically without any kind of transparency to the player when they played with last gen consoles or last gen players, they would think that it's a bug. They would think that there's something broken in the game. You know, it would raise too many questions or concerns without there being some kind of notification for players.
Well, you know, you say that, and I do agree. I think to some extent, if you're going to be the first to do that, but again, I think console players are starting to get used to options, and there's different modes, and they're starting to understand, hey, there's crossplay here, but you know, you have to turn it on or off, and I don't know, like it seems like holding back, if that is possible, that seems like a minor inconvenience or issue, quote unquote issue, to deal with for a very, let's say, narrow population, because there's probably only going to be a small amount of the population that that is playing co-op online across different consoles, in my opinion. I mean, maybe I'm wrong there, but to me, it just feels like that's going to be a smaller niche of people. And if that is an inconvenience or something you need to get a flash screen for, it just seems like, okay, well, you just put that up there and you let them know if you want to play with your buddy on the old system, he's holding you back. But I think now too.
Well,
but
I just to throw it out right there, even a splash screen saying that they're going to have to be very careful how they word that, because then that's going to reignite the whole controversy surrounding cross-gen games holding current next-gen systems back. Like that whole thing is such a fine line that they're going to have to. What?
No, I said that's just a messaging thing, though. Like what you're saying is true. They'll freak out about everything, but that's just up to them to figure out how you deliver the message. I don't think you hold.
Would you trust Microsoft to deliver that message in a good way?
It doesn't matter. We'll clean it up on the forums later. So, I really think that, especially you think about the timing now. So if the campaign is late 2021, I'm just throwing out an example, or it's coming out when there is Series X, why not have a few bells and whistles that say, hey, yeah, we're not excluding you. You can buy the game or play it on Game Pass on your Xbox One, just like we promised, and it'd be the best version you can get there. But hey, when you can upgrade, look at all the extra stuff you get, or when you can play it on the cloud, when it's, when there's Series X APUs there, look at all the extra bells and whistles. I feel like that could actually, if you framed it the right way, it could actually be a benefit to accomplish both things: support your old base, but also give people a reason to move on and move away from those old Jaguar GPU.
I agree. That's why I think they should make last gen, at least in the campaign, 30 frames, and then next gen 60 frames, because that would be a great way, of like, look, you're going to get that standard's already been established with the launch. So, that could be another one of those long list of games that run in 30 last gen and 60 next gen, or now this gen. But it also helps last gen not hold back current gen. Like, there's multiple benefits to shooting for a 30 frames per second target during the campaign. And, even if they don't have extended physics and all that stuff that you're talking about, they can at least double the frame rate, because it's obviously going to have higher resolution. It's likely going to have better textures. It's going to there are going to be next gen benefits,
right? There will be,
so I don't see a big reason to not add frame rate to that. I mean, anyone that cares about frame rate, they're going to have a PC or current gen system now,
right? Yeah, I guess that's a question: is are they going to? I hope that the and this is no slight to Xbox One owners, but I hope that version is 30 frames so that you can use.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because if you're putting that at 60 frames and you're game designing around a wide world of 60 frames on the Xbox One, you're really limiting the amount of stuff you can throw in there. So
I can't see the original Xbox One and 1S hitting 60 frames per second in an open world version of Halo, even if it's open world hubs like or Metro Exodus, where it's smaller connected open worlds.
Right. And that was what it was rumored to target.
That's I think Mike's right. That I am hoping that's not the case, though, because that would really hold back the game design, in my opinion. Because what else you got? You can put a few grunts in here before the thing tanks. So, all right. I know we've been going along on that. Did any other final thoughts? I know Jesse.
Shot. He's a great guy. I told him to get that out.
All right, cool. So, you good on that topic? I guess so.
Yes. So, you know what? One thing I did want to mention a little earlier, and actually we did get a question about the mocap artist talking about the leak. One thing I do want to say is, in general, I would take his if he says he heard that it might, or it's supposed to release spring 2021 or whatever, I would take that more, how do I say it? I'd take that into more consideration than pretty much every other person I'd hear about the game. Us, forums, I mean, if he's been the mocap artist for the Chief for years, and he's clearly has contacts, he clearly knows people, heard things. You know what I mean?
Right.
I wouldn't take it to gospel. Obviously, it's just a rumor, just a whatever. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's true either.
Right. I think it goes back to what we said before. We all kind of think that the target is the target, but
They might not. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
It could change. Okay, cool. That's a really, really good point, though. So I guess we'll still assume that that's the target. We'll see what happens next. One thing we didn't touch on yet is the news of Master Chief in Fortnite. I don't know how big a news this is for anybody. I don't play Fortnite. Anybody have any thoughts on it?
It's pretty big news, in my opinion.
All right, go ahead. So, what you said it's pretty big news. What's your thoughts?
I mean,
on
it's big news for a few things. One is, when was the last time you had major properties from both Sony and Microsoft in the exact same game? If
Available
ever.
on competing platforms.
That
Yeah,
too.
I opened it and it's literally they're on their Xbox and it says Kratos, PlayStation Studios, and it's like, oh, this is weird.
That's crazy. Like that's unheard of. I feel,
2,200 coins. It's like friggin' $20. Holy Christ!
Wow, there's a price that comes with that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they know their audience. I'd buy it.
Yeah, and the rumor is, well, it was data mined. First, they data mined Kratos, and he was announced. They've also data mined Chief. He looks awesome. His infinite model looks perfect.
He will until he's forced to do this.
Yeah, the dancing with Kratos. But Chief's items are supposed to be like the thing he drops in on is a pelican, and his pickaxe is a gravity hammer. And the third one was Samus from Metroid.
Oh, really? I don't know what the third
I'm surprised Nintendo let that.
The Nintendo character that's been data mined.
Man, the power of Fortnite, huh? Uniting the warring factions.
One that got them to let Sony finally get in on the crossplay. So
how long until we get a video of all three just flossing?
Whoever's out third, you will immediately start having them all dancing and then murdering each other.
The war is over. Peace has been found.
Man.
And yeah, Nick Special Ed bought Kratos and then was using him on his Xbox. It's not like they're limited to their platform.
That's really cool. I don't know what the news means in terms of relevancy, in terms of other factors, but it just in general, it's really cool to me.
Well, there's your BR and Halo, so I guess
you mean your Halo when they're BR.
They're basically setting the table. They're trying to plant the seed.
Gravity hammer needs to be able to knock down any of those stupid buildings and I'd actually play Fortnite.
It'd be cool if they actually added like Halo guns to the game too, but I guess that's a step too far.
It's probably
it would probably just be skins for already existing ones.
That'd be cool too, to be honest. But it looks like they're trying to do like an even, like a little bit of PlayStation, a little bit of Xbox, and a little bit of, I don't know. There's no Metroid game on the Switch, so what? GameCube?
There's a 2D Metroid game on there.
Which one?
Didn't they do a remake of the Game Boy Advance Metroid?
That was on the DS, I'm fairly certain. 3DS, not the Switch. I don't think. Actually, I don't think the Switch has a playable Metroid game.
I think the trilogy is either rumored or confirmed, but none of it is out.
Yeah, which
you can play Super. I think Super Metroid's one of the arcade, like the older games that came in that you could play. So literally, friggin' 26-year-old Metroid game.
Oh my god,
is the
that
only
one.
one
Yes,
that's
I
on
suppose
there.
technically, yes, that one would be playable on it. Nintendo, what are you guys doing?
They don't have gun characters. She's probably it for actually shooting a gun. They're not gonna they're Mario in that XCOM style game. Weird as shit. So
now I want Mario and Fortnite, bro, carrying like assault rifles. But yes, the Chief design, the League design looks amazing. Which again, I'm bringing it back. You see how I do this? Which again makes me reaffirm my opinion that the Chief Infinite design is the best. It's GOAT. Amazing.
It is. I'm not going to disagree there. They nailed the art design there. Just not the Lego stuff in the background, but yes, Chief is great.
I mean, even if you compare like the Kratos design, which looks okay, it's kind of like cartoony. Chief's works so well, which is, and again, in my opinion, one of the pros of Halo Infinite's art style, where it's going for that stylized look compared to that. Like, look, this is what Kratos looks like when you turn him into a video game. You could say.
Mhm.
Doesn't look good, in my opinion. At least not compared to his photorealistic God of War image, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think that is an interesting point. It wasn't one of our topics, but just talking about that art style in general. I do think that Halo's hyper realistic or kind of some semi cartoony look is a little bit more timeless, and it does last. I think when you go for realistic, it does age much faster. Whereas when you go for cartoon, it just holds up better. But other than that, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot more thoughts to it, other than maybe that this is a sign that it's not going to, that 343 is not making a Fortnite equivalent in their BR, which I think none of us expected anyways. But I think that they probably wouldn't do that if they were going to. But I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about that.
We've spoken about this, so I think like 4 episodes or 3 episodes we've talked about Halo BR or potential large infinite mode.
Yeah. Okay.
Kage pitch to us twice, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll skip that for now. We'll wait until they reveal it. All right. So I'm going to go. I know we want to get to some community questions before we have to end the show, and we're going to have to kind of get to the end here sooner than later. So let's go ahead and move on. Anybody have any final thoughts about that? Before I move on, did I skip you, Mike?
I hope you did.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, it's Fortnite. I mean, whatever.
Whatever.
Master Chief looks great in it. I think Kratos looks great in it, but I agree with Soul Blazer that it doesn't fit the Fortnite art style nearly as well as Master Chief.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing though? Well, who knows?
If they make the BR, if they put a battle rifle or a pistol in Fortnite to go along with Master Chief that feels like the Halo version, I might actually play it. I won't build anything.
That is not happening.
Try to headshot everybody. Yeah, no, I agree with you. All right, so we'll move on. All right, so let's go on and move on to the community questions. I want to make sure we get to this one while we still have Jesse here, because this is about the story. So from a person at Manda Laxo from the Twitters, he says, where do you think the story will go? Where do you want the story with Cortana to go? Either or both is good. All right, what's your guys' thoughts on that? We'll start with that. We're going to start with Jesse on this one.
From the trailers, it feels like it's going to be evil Cortana versus a splintered good Cortana. Because he's walking in, she's talking to him, he's pulling the chip out of his head, and then that found MP3 file intimates that Cortana's like, oh, I don't know how I'm here or what, but it's me. It's really me. So I think during the course of Halo Infinite, we get nice, healthy, not rampant anymore Cortana that's splintered off versus evil, maybe called the Harbinger Cortana. Because they kept talking about the Harbinger, and having Cortana versus Cortana wouldn't be as cool sounding as the Harbinger versus Cortana.
That's really interesting, especially it's almost like a soft retcon of Halo 5, which is perfect. Mike, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm right along the lines of what Jesse was saying, because there were even hints. I'm trying to think of what Halo YouTube channel I watched, but the second Infinite trailer where Chief looks down and he places the chip in his helmet, there's a program, I forgot what it's called, some kind of protocol program that pops up briefly, and I guess people that looked into it or people that are deep in the Halo lore, this program basically fixes damaged AI. So the thought process, from what I understand, is that chip that Chief has is specifically tailored to fix Cortana, or so that might be that splinter or fraction of Cortana that he puts in there, and that's where she's repaired and she really is who she says she is. And yeah, I mean, I hope it's what Jesse says, because if they just fix the whole Cortana thing just by placing her in a chip, and that's the complete conclusion of her arc, that'd be pretty disappointing.
Right.
And during the gameplay for Infinite, I mean, didn't that general at the end talk about the Harbinger or whatever? So it does seem like they lined up with Cortana. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be us, like the universe, I guess, against Cortana and the what do you call it? The what's that faction?
Vanished.
The Banished. Thank you. Yeah. So, and I'm hoping that Cortana relies more on the Banished because the Prometheans just have not proven themselves so far. But who knows? Like I don't know. But I think it's gonna be Cortana and Banished versus Earth and
Grunts.
good Cortana.
I think we can all step in and speak for Proven, aka Austin, who's not here, and say F the Prometheans. But okay, whatever it takes to get rid of them. I'm actually not too far behind. So what's your thoughts?
I have a
on
lot
that?
I can say on this. I'm not going to because we're kind of short in time, but this could be a huge episode on its own. One thing I will preface off with though is not the question per se, but what I really wanted the story to go from Halo 4. So one thing that I've discussed a lot with a lot of people is the aspect of retiring Master Chief, which is, by the way, a whole topic we should definitely do at one point.
Yeah.
And my personal opinion is, TLDR, long story short, is he should be retired at one point because I think every good story, every good character needs a good ending too. That's just the way I piece it together. So my original idea when it came to a Cortana and all this stuff in Halo 4 was I wanted Halo 4 to end. I wanted Halo 5 to start. I wanted the end of Halo 5 to have the Flood show up again. And then I wanted Halo 6 to be the Chief and the Didact working together to take the Flood out once and for all. Right? That's where I wanted the story to go, which is clearly not happening because they pretend the Didact doesn't exist for some reason. When it comes to Cortana, what I really wanted to do is I wanted the Halo 4 death of Cortana to last. So what I wanted for them to happen was... for and eventually a new Cortana to show up, maybe using Halsey's brain. I don't know, she dies or something. And then I wanted the Chief to like recognize that this isn't his Cortana, and then that like segues into a new character, and then Chief is retired, etc. Blah blah blah. That's what I wanted. That's not what I got. What I got and where I think the story will go is about the same that Don said. Honestly, all the hints we've gotten looks towards you're piecing together Cortana. It fits very well with the whole open level aspect. Right? Yeah. You collect various pieces throughout the various levels. You can collect here. Hey, collect 60 pieces and you find secrets here. It's a new gun. Collect 70 pieces and hidden ending. That kind of stuff.
It's not a
God alone to be like half of the pieces. Well, for Cortana.
Collect all 100 feathers. In terms of the story itself, I think I still do think we're going to reach a point where we're going to have multiple factions fighting at the same time. We're going to have the Prometheans. I don't think they're retiring them. They're 343's like baby, you could say, which means they may put it down. Yes, but I think
baby that only your mama could love. But yeah,
it's in the trailer. It's in the gameplay, so the Prometheans are still there.
Yes. No. Well, is that a hard confirmation?
There's a night. There's a hunt. Like a mission to kill a knight or something like that. Well, when they cut to the
technically, you could say Gears 5 still has the DBs, technically, but they're only there for like I think one optional encounter if you wanted them to.
I wouldn't be surprised if knights are a bigger, badder, tougher to fight enemy and like a bigger go after. There are still the dogs and the soldiers. They're fine. They're go for the head like anything else. Less focus on bullet spongy, more if you get them in the head like the dog, they're just right out. I have no problem fighting them. But the knights could be real annoying. The worst ones were the freaking sentinels flying around shielding and dividing.
Especially in Halo 4. They were
they were fine. They were barely used and they were fine in 5. Yeah. So on the whole, I think the Prometheans are fine.
I was going to say though, I think
they're gonna have everything. It's going. You like them all. They'll all be there.
I think one thing, all I know, if Infinite, and I'm fairly confident on this, I'll stake on it, is the Flood will appear either in the game or sometime during Infinite's lifetime. We will see the Flood.
Yeah, I'm actually on. pretty much I don't have a whole lot new to add to the Cortana thing. I think that's really the best way for them to resolve it. I think making her evil was just kind of dumb.
A terrible decision.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It's not what it doesn't. It just doesn't work with the tone of Halo, and it's just like Master Chief. You know, there's certain things, certain people that kind of, I guess, twist to a story just. First of all, it's not that original.
It's not. It's the biggest like sci-fi trope in the world. Evil AIs.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, it is. It is tropey.
20 years ago, they're all killing us.
It's like it's only a surprise because it was bad. It's like
Yeah.
fucking greenlighted this crap. But yeah, I mean, as far as the Promethean zone, I guess this goes into another question. So we do have another question about the story. So let me just go ahead and read that out if we're going to keep going in this direction. But from the community, we had a question from Hassan Big Z on the XboxEra forums. My question this week is in relation to the story narrative. Halo has a rich history of storytelling, either in game or in the expanded universe. If you could pick any writer to write the story or the next Halo game, what would that writer be, and why did you pick him or her? So yeah, I guess we'll go with that. But we'll go with the writers and why, like that might tie into the story. Anybody here have any favorite writers for Halo?
I mean, Nyland, right? I mean, I think that's probably a lot of people's favorite Halo author, Eric Nyland.
Yeah, the classics. How about you, Jesse? I know you are.
That wasn't my answer.
I'm trying to look at the guy who has been writing the Master Chief books because they are fantastic.
Justin? I don't know with the J. I thought.
It's
Silent Storm.
Big Ralph McGill. No, wait.
Troy Dennings. You're talking about?
Yeah, Troy Denning. His Master Chief stuff has been very good. I also, Christ, who the hell wrote the Forerunner trilogy?
Greg Bear. That was going to be my answer too, 100%.
Yeah, the Forerunner trilogy is probably my favorite out of all of them.
A game written by Greg Bear it'd be heavy, and it wouldn't be a mainline Halo, in my opinion. But it'd be so good. Oh, it'd be so good.
How about you, Mike? Any authors? Any ideas? And why would you choose them?
I would go with Statton because he's the only one that's written for both a game and book.
Oh,
and right, from what I understand, writing for a book is different than writing for a comic, which is different than writing for a game. So while I absolutely love, like Nyland and all that, my concern would be that their talents wouldn't translate as well to a game format. But I'm definitely open to them trying. I would love to see any of those authors give it a go.
Oh, I just assumed we just magically assumed they were just as good as writing for games as they were for books.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then I'm all about it. There's no wrong answer that's been, not that there's any wrong answer to begin with, but my safe, unoriginal name would be Statton.
Well, sometimes I think the safe answer is the right answer. And honestly, when this question was asked, I didn't have any ideas. So I was going to listen to all three of you and steal one of yours. And I think I'm going to go with Mike because you know what you got me thinking about when you said Statton is it's really how good I think the original storytelling really holds up. And even though it didn't really didn't go into any weeds on anything, it was perfect for a video game. It was all something that came across as interesting in the game and had set up enough mystery. It really just tied in. It just tied in really well into a gameplay world. So yeah, I would go Statton. And I think it's nice that he's at least overseeing the project. Hopefully, he has influence in terms of the storytelling style. And I think the style is almost important as the actual what. I mean, unless you're making Cortana bad, then the what is wrong. Go ahead.
I would think that the major story points are done because if the mocap actor is done, then there's no those parts are done. What they possibly can change is how things are handled during gameplay. And one of the things that I was not a fan of in 4 or 5 was that your character spoke during gameplay, where that never happened before.
Right.
You had things presented to you, told to you, and then you were free to kind of form your own thoughts to
That's
put
if they had to
yourself
have
in
the
that
dialogue
character.
right between the characters. It was an interesting decision, not the best one.
Yeah, I didn't care for it.
I mean, we're going back to clones of Chiefs, so I think they agree with you.
Yep. And then I guess next I would choose whatever writer would get rid of the Prometheans just as fast as they got rid of Jewel Dama.
Look at the same comic book author.
Hey, by the way, for anybody who says, they're not going to get rid of them, I look at Jewel, right? Jewel Dama in Halo 5.
Yep.
Look how fast they got rid of him. He was a cutscene.
About 5 seconds.
That's what I want. The Prometheans, they show up, they get blown up, they move on.
There's still at least 15 million Void and Eternal bodies out there, man. It's going to take a lot of explosives.
Do it.
He's bringing the Doomslayer, man. He's used to Eternal.
Maybe show some flashbacks of how they died. I don't know. All right.
You think just say, and then they all return to their home planet and quickly just have them fly up the screen.
All right. So one last question. I think we kind of answered this, but I'll just read it anyways from Andrew Schmidt. Do you think the mocap actor is accurate, or is he speculating like the rest of us? I think so. You put it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we answered it already pretty much. But you know what? One thing, actually, I totally forgot. I was going to say it. You know, we heard that Halo 5, the story was almost completely redone in like the last year of development. Or at least I heard that. I never really fact-checked it, but I kind of assumed it was true based on playing Halo 5.
I thought it was redone, and that's what we got.
Yes, that's what I meant. The story was redone in the last year of its development, and that's what we got, right?
Okay.
So to me, the mocap actor saying he's already done his work, possibly a year before the release of the game, if you think it's releasing in fall, to me is a good sign regarding the actual narrative and story of the game.
Yeah.
That they're not going to reboot it, restart it. Hopefully, you know.
After 5 years, I don't even know if that's an option.
Yeah,
and to go back to what the question, I mean, what he could be saying is true, but that doesn't make it
true,
like gospel. Because what he can be saying is true when he heard it, and he's 100% right. But as we've talked about plenty in this episode, with how flexible they are with the release date, what was the plan or what was said when he was finishing up or talking to those people during recording, that may be different now.
Yeah, and it's not like he went and said the game is releasing spring 2021. That's it.
Right. Yeah, that's where I'm at on it. I think it's when he heard it, or he's saying it based on the information he had, which is good at that time, but things change. Jesse, any further thoughts on that?
No.
Okay, good. He's ready to go eat. All right, I think that's all the community questions. Did I miss anything?
No, that's it.
Guys?
Yeah. And
all right.
Our apparently short episode went on for just as long as most of our episodes.
That's because there's no such thing as short with us. I I guess it's time to wrap up. Go ahead, Sol, and just kind of do the whole Patreon thing.
Patreon thing.
Patreon, that's what I meant.
No, I mean, if you're listening this far and you're on episode 7, then I mean you're one of us. We really appreciate. I was checking out some of the statistics for you check YouTube statistics and it's like average view time on a podcast like 20 minutes, and a few hundred views. And then you check something like Spotify statistics and the views are a lot lower. You'd think around like less than 100, but the average view time was like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So for those of you who listen to the whole podcast, we really, really appreciate it. Please let us know, comment, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't, especially what you don't. Let us know if you like this episode better, because if you did, then we'll make sure to cut Proven more often. That was a joke. That was a joke. That was a huge joke. Proven, when you listen to this, that was 100% a joke. But yeah, please like our comment. Please like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy our stuff, and have a good one.
All right, guys. Well, it's again as a reminder, we'll be back with you when there's a major news drop by the end of the month at the latest, I think. And
it'll probably be within 2 weeks because I want to get it done before the holidays. So it's whenever it's up. Probably a day or two, depending on people's schedules.
Yeah, it has to be before like the 22nd, right? There's no way.
Okay, well, maybe you're right. So that'd be great. So yeah, we'll see everybody. hopefully when we when we get back together, we'll have some more news. If they don't drop anything great, then we'll have a lot to complain about. So either way, we'll have a long show, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, great show, and we'll catch you guys soon.
Goodbye.
See
Later,
you
everyone.
on the flip side, yo.